Hey guys, my name is Torin Bradley and I'm from Mount Albert Baptist Youth. I've been asked to come up here today and talk to you about the word welcome and what it means to me. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to share a story with you about something that happened to me a few years back and how that's affected me throughout my life so far. When I was in primary school, my group of mates used to play a game called Run Away from Torin. The rules of the game were very simple. As soon as I showed up to school, they'd run away, and then when I got too close, they'd keep going. Then they'd laugh at me because I was slow, and then they'd continue to run. As soon as morning tea started, the game would start, and then the same thing at lunch. It was always me, and it was all day, every day, for years. At first, I went along with it because, seeing as I was really young, I thought this is what friends did. These were my first friends, so I didn't actually know any better. But after a few years go by, I started to get an unending feeling of loneliness. Even after I'd found a new and better group of people to spend time with. Even after the tormenting stopped, I carried that feeling of loneliness with me, because over the years, that feeling and the actions of those boys had started to define who I was. I started to think that I was always that lonely kid, and I started to act like that lonely kid was who I was always going to be. Those feelings started to affect my learning, my character, and my own self-image, years after I left those guys behind. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this story is because I know that out there in the audience, there are a lot of people who feel like this. According to census at school, 39% of high school students who took part in the survey said that verbal abuse is a prominent issue at their school. That's not okay. It's not okay to bully other people. It's not okay to leave people out. When people are left out, they feel marginalized. You could be in a crowd full of people or be constantly surrounded by people at all times, yet still feel lonely and still feel unaccepted. The reason I'm talking to you about this is because I want to talk to you about what Jesus used to do. When he used to walk, talk, teach, he made a point to bring other people in. People who felt left out, who were marginalized, looked down upon, society's outcasts. Jesus would bring them into his center, to his table, around his fire, into his boat, into his life, into his world. He wasn't the kind of guy to pick a team and leave someone on the outsides or the edges, and he wasn't the kind of guy to make people feel stink about themselves. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 says, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God." He used to make people's worlds come alive, and he used to help them to understand who they were. That's the Jesus that we hear about this Easter. And that's the attitude that I believe we could have in our groups this weekend. There are plenty of opportunities for you to include people this weekend in your groups. You may have come here by yourself, you may be new to a group, and you may not know what's going on. Well then, hi am I. Welcome. Firstly, you all need to welcome people to this place and need to help them along in this experience. You need to do what Jesus did. Include the other. If you feel like what I've shared with you in my story resonates with your story right now, I encourage you to talk to someone. Make this camp, this place, a time of change. Start a new story.